new trend spreading all over TikTok shows a bunch of young women choosing to ditch makeup on first dates with men, and they see it as kind of a power move. Before there's investment from the guy that you're dating, you're not going to invest any extra time in looking your best for the date. So this is the first question posed by EV Magazine. Is it rude to go on a date without putting on makeup? I would say no. It's rude to go to a date without trying to look good at all.
Yeah, you've immediately started everything in bad faith.
Like obviously
it's combative from the very beginning.
Practice basic hygiene, put on something nice to wear, smile, be polite. But I don't think that makeup necessarily has to be the bare minimum for a date. And a lot of women on TikTok are choosing to hop on this trend and sharing their experiences. Some of them are going well and others aren't. So this one girl said, someone told me this week to go on a first date with no makeup and then gradually put on more each date. So here is my attempt for a first date. So basically they're investing more time in their appearance the more invested the guy gets in seeing them again. Which kind of makes sense if you think about it. And any guy who would ghost you for how you look without makeup probably isn't the one.
It's actually funnier if the guy gets less invested and likes you less as you put more makeup on.
Yeah, another one said she was going on a date with no makeup and not doing her hair. Is
that this video here?
Straight out of the shower, I guess. Going with natural hair. And another one was featured in the Bustle piece about this trend, who kind of started it. Another one said, I'm going on a first date wearing literal pajamas as a dress and without my hair or makeup done because I'm in the mood to gamble with my confidence. I'm either going to be really proud of myself or hysterically crying in 2 hours. See, the thing is, they're kind of sabotaging themselves because regardless of how well the date goes, they're going to tell themselves it was because of the makeup.
Yeah, they've set themselves up for failure on purpose.
Like, oh, it went well because I wasn't wearing makeup, or it went badly because I wasn't wearing makeup. When in reality, it probably just would have gone the same way regardless. But yeah, I don't think you should be wearing pajamas on a date. That part is rude.
I would be interested to know, just as a matter of curiosity, what their ideal attire for men would be in these cases. The comedy skit version of this is that the guy shows up that way too, and she gets mad because he shows up in pajamas.
If a guy shows up on a date with makeup, I'd be a little worried about
he shows up,
sexual orientation.
He shows up in pajamas. He puts no time into his appearance. He's like, deodorant, what's that?
Yeah, that would definitely be taken as a diss by most women, as they should be.
Or he doesn't comb his hair or something. He doesn't put any time into his appearance because you know what? It's a first date. I'm already going to be, paying for the dinner. I might as well save the use of my hair gel for another day.
Well, I've heard that we're in a chopped man epidemic. Well, now that splitting the bill is kind of accepted by a lot of society as the social convention in dating.
Wait, is that actually true? Do men split the bill on first dates with women?
Well, it's so unpredictable. That's why it's such a conundrum, A lot of men will expect that they're paying, and a lot of men will expect it to be split. So you walk into it having no idea what to expect, and if you don't know what you're getting into, why would you spend a bunch of time and money trying to do your hair and makeup, right?
Well, okay, then I'll make the argument.
A lot of women say we expect men to pay the bill on the date because we're spending all of this time and money trying to look good on the date. So that's their argument, at least.
Men should expect that if you want to, if this is the approach that you're taking to find love and settle down, that fruitless dates that you end up having to pay for is just the price you pay for the search. And for women, fruitless dates with all the time you spent into makeup is the price you pay for trying to find Mr. or Mrs. Right.
Yeah,
it's social decorum and it's important.
I would agree with that. Yeah. So you think that women should wear makeup on a first date.
At the very least, they should do it for reasons that are non-combative, which is like, what was the full listing of reasons again? Because they don't want to invest time into something until they know that it's going to play out. Then if the guy said like, well, I don't want to invest money into something if I don't think it's going to work out. They wouldn't like it if guys said it, and they would be right. Right. So guys being like, look, and it's also kind of taking guys at their word where they're like, we like women with less makeup too. So they're kind of out of arguments. But to normal people, they understand that whatever the social contract has been for as long as it has been that way, meaning that women wear makeup and guys pay for the first date, then you operate in that social construct until otherwise.
I agree with
until
you.
The guy says, you know what? I'm not a huge fan of like a ton of makeup. And then perhaps you ease up on it because that's his preference. But that would be sacrificing for him. They're not sacrificing for anyone here. A guy who says that he's not going to pay on the first date and says it's about wanting women to be able to be strong and independent is lying. And a woman saying, I'm not going to wear makeup on the first date because men say they don't want it is also lying.
We have a 20 from Pop Culture Junkie. Frankly, I was always a little wary of a woman who was overly made up on a first date. Always liked the no makeup look. Maybe being a fashion photographer for a year affected my judgment.
Perhaps so.
Well, it definitely makes you more knowledgeable on the subject than most men. I think that's where you go wrong. Wearing too much or none at all is not the right move. Like, something minimal would be the preference of most men. But interestingly, none of the women participating in this trend are mentioning men's preferences whatsoever. Yeah. None of them are saying, oh, I'm going on these dates without makeup because men keep saying that they want me not to wear it. Or they're trying to put off men. It has nothing to do with that. It's just dating off of dating apps is so low investment as it is. Why should I try? And that's a little bit of a defeatist mindset.
Yeah, at that point, you shouldn't be surprised when things don't work out. Yeah. There's actually something inherently more engaging about the idea that you keep trying and it doesn't always work out. And that's kind of the beautiful problem of it all, is that you keep like, that's what the movies are about. There is no movie about I just fucking gave up and just like maybe there's a movie idea behind the woman who goes on a date where she finally gives up and puts on no makeup, actually meets the right guy, because that's kind of novel and cute. But otherwise, the romantic notion is that it keeps going badly, but because you want love and you want commitment and you want to fall in love, get married and have kids, you keep trying.
Yeah, if anything, in my view, putting on the makeup is worth it simply because you're mentally preparing yourself for the date. In a way, it's like putting you in the headspace to present yourself the best you possibly can to this other person instead of just showing up out of bed. But the experts disagree with me. They sourced a couple of opinions from clinical psychologists in this think piece on the trend. One of them said that eschewing tradition and showing up with bare skin may help weed out the people who wouldn't be a good match. If someone you date loses interest simply because you weren't wearing makeup, that's useful information.
It's not about not wearing makeup. It's about they're perceiving it as that you're not trying.
They also say this trend is a way to signal to yourself, not the other person, that you're enough just as you are. It's like, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
Sincerely, somebody who's never at their best.
This can be especially powerful for those healing from perfectionism, people-pleasing, or anxious attachment. That's always the talk of attachment styles, right?
Again, that's just a cope excuse to not try.
To your date, it may communicate confidence, self-acceptance, and authenticity, and that can set the tone for a relationship when you're not afraid to show up as your full self. I just don't think that anything about dressing up or putting on makeup or doing your hair detracts from who you are.
I've also never been the person who I never understood the idea of men's dislike for makeup. Like the online discourse
from a male perspective.
Yeah, like I never understood the online discourse around the idea of like why that's such a bad. Like I get it. There's the over the top extreme examples, usually paired with extensive noticeable plastic surgery, and over the top, extremely opulent choice in clothing that signals to a specific type of person.
Right.
But in general, I see somebody in the chat mention that guy's makeup, meaning me's, your beard is a guy's makeup. Ever seen those memes about the guy he shaves and he's got no chin, and he's just dysgenic looking? And that's true. Like, for me, I don't like the way that I look without facial hair. Unless I have no glasses on. I'm okay with it if I'm not wearing glasses. With glasses, I do not like the look of my face without facial hair of some length.
Well, okay. If we're to look at the argument that makeup is lying or makeup is false advertisement, and for guys, facial hair is their version of makeup, and it's a form of lying about how you look, I just think that's ridiculous because, you know, you can tell pretty easily if a guy has a beard that's covering no chin. Like, and I mean, you can tell
that's an
when
extreme
someone's
example.
sitting right in front of you and she is caked in makeup.
Yeah.
You can tell exactly how this person looks. There's no hiding it. You can hide it on a photo. You can hide it on Instagram or on Tinder, right? That's easy. But showing up in person, you can tell immediately what the person really looks like. And one of these women, actually, who hopped on this trend and went to a first date without makeup, said that the guy was super excited to see her, was messaging her consistently before the date, and then afterwards she got ghosted.
Now, was she wearing a ton of makeup in the pictures?
She was probably just wearing like a normal, somewhere in the middle.
But also maybe some filters on those photos, and then the guy saw her and he was like, damn.
Right, exactly. And women do notice what men seem to prefer on social media or when it comes to OnlyFans or whatever. A lot of women who have extensive cosmetic procedures, plastic surgery, heavy makeup, and editing. And then they think, well, I should just conform to that standard because that's what men seem to prefer. And then men tell them that they prefer the opposite. So it's just inevitably confusing for everyone involved. And then someone like Pamela Anderson or Alicia Keys or any number of celebrities who decide not to wear makeup in public get trashed for it.
I will say I've done my fair share of trashing on Pamela Anderson, not because of the not makeup thing, but because she's made it like her entire identity now. Like, this is her identity, and it's this shaming of the culture that made her rich.
Sure.
Behind it, which I find to be a little bit put on and a little bit phony.
Well, this is an example of that from a recent interview where she talked about not wearing makeup on red carpets.
I would wonder, before we watch this, if nobody was willing, if everybody just ignored her and just said, and asked her the regular questions, didn't make it a focus of conversation, if she would keep doing it. Then I would be on board and say, okay, you're practicing what you preach, and it's about what you're doing, not about the attention it's getting you. But as long as it's brought up in every interview and she's celebrated for it, I'm like,
well, she can't control how people react to it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that if she wasn't doing it, I wonder if she would keep it up. Perhaps she would. I don't know.
That's an interesting question.
Move is to be who you want to be. Like, what is beauty? Beauty is subjective. And
Disagree.
We don't have to look like the covers of magazines. We don't have to do the industry standard, which everybody was so horrified when I decided I didn't need a glam team for certain events. I'd rather go look at architecture at the museum when I was in Paris. I thought, who's looking at me? I'm clothed from head to toe with these big hats and, this much of my face is sticking out. Is anyone going to really fall over backwards if I'm not wearing makeup? And that's where it started at Paris Fashion Week. And it just sent everybody scrambling around me thinking, no.
The choice to do it at Fashion Week is 110% not because, I just thought, you did not just think. You thought deeply about it.
Well, she is referring to not going to an official event, but just sightseeing during the day, like doing whatever.
All right, here we go.
This is not what people do. And I said, well, that even gives me more reason to do it. And not that it was, world peace or anything, but it was just me challenging myself, thinking, why am I sitting in a makeup chair for 3 hours when no one's looking at me? Like, what am I? And even if they were, why am I doing this? Because this just seems like a habit. And not that I'm opposed to makeup, because I love getting dressed up and glammed up, and I just felt like it was time to, I had nothing to lose. And I felt I'm not trying to create a persona right now. I'm not trying to be famous. I need to use my position to experiment and open up conversations.
Ironically enough, she is trying to create a persona right now. It's a persona around the idea of I'm the one who goes to events without makeup on.
Yeah, but granted, she did say, oh, I'm not achieving world peace or anything. It's not like a big deal.
Yes.
She doesn't seem to think that it's as big of a deal as people make it out to be.
I get, maybe it's because I grew up in the 90s at the time when her type of beauty, that blonde bombshell type of beauty, was so prevalent that now it feels like she's going completely in the opposite direction, specifically for the course of reinventing herself. I just find it to be a tad dishonest.
In a form of
if we're talking, because she mentioned Paris Fashion Week in some non-red carpet event, but it's the red carpet events that she goes to while she's doing this. Now, if she followed the normal rules of social decorum around those events and she went in her makeup and whatever, and then chose to live the rest of her life this way, that's different. But to say that you're not creating a persona, but then go out of your way to break the norms of every single one of these events, that tells me that it is a persona. And at the very least, I interpret that as you haven't really thought through what you're doing. Or at the other end, you have, and you're framing it in a tone of virtue that I don't 110% buy.
Well, I see what you mean, that it's a performance of not performing.
Correct.
In and of itself.
That's what I mean. And I'm not trying to say, I'm not saying anything rude about her. I think more than anything, it's not the idea which would normally happen in these situations, which is the idea of like pulling up the ladder behind you, where she says, the way I was dressed back then was problematic. She's not doing that. That would be infinitely worse. If she was like, well, the way things were in the 90s, like, we can't do that anymore. She's not doing that. So I'll give her credit for that. She's not shaming the women that do want to do that. But I just find that maybe perhaps she hasn't thought it through entirely, or she's being just a tad intellectually dishonest about why she does it.
It's performatively non-performative. And it's a message that definitely comes off a different way coming from an actress, a celebrity who goes to these events compared to a random girl who's going on Hinge dates, right? Like, I think that the women who are going away from makeup on first dates aren't doing so to make a statement necessarily. They're just probably reacting to the fact that the dating world is dead in the water, and like they're kind of giving up on putting in more effort because, again, like, meeting up with someone from a dating app is the lowest level of investment you could possibly have.
And the guy shows up in his joggers and in a stained shirt, and she shows up in sweatpants.
I'm sure a lot of guys do
and
stuff
no
like
makeup
that.
And,
I'm sure a lot of guys do show up to dates without putting any effort into how they dress or
I do like
hygiene.
the idea that there's a guy who, like, they go out to dinner and he's like, so we split in the check. Like, you came in sweatpants. Like, I just assumed this was just a friend
That's
thing.
a whole other conversation. I just saw EV Magazine compiled a bunch of quotes from female celebrities who say they never wear sweatpants. They refuse to wear sweatpants.
I did not like whatever. What was it? Was it Ava Longoria or whoever it was?
It was Ava Mendes.
Ava
said
Mendes,
that wearing
like,
sweatpants is the #1 cause of divorce, and I was like, okay, you're being a little dramatic right now.
You like, if that's what you think, like, if you had said, like, letting yourself go. Maybe, but that's like the saying that gives the vibe of like she's just the meanest person you've ever met, but she thinks that it's the sweatpants she's wearing while she's being mean, not her being mean, that causes a divorce. But otherwise, if you say no, letting yourself go,
that's what the sweatpants represent. And the sweatpants represent not trying anymore, not showing up as your best self.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.